Your eyes did not deceive you. It's finally time to cover Ashe support. Ashe support has always kind of been a thing ever since Imperial Mandate came out, since she has such an easy time proccing it on multiple enemies. She's got some other great benefits as well, like how she's one of the most simple supports to play, has nearly unanswerable poke, and as you already know, has one of the most fun and impactful ultimates in the whole game. Recently, Ashe support has skyrocketed in popularity thanks to Twitch streamer RatIRL, adding it to his regular champion pool when he plays support. But just because he started playing it doesn't mean we're covering him. We'll talk about what he does, but this channel isn't built on only focusing on the big guys, and there's one player out there who's been playing Ashe support way before it was cool. The player we're analyzing today is known as SOS4U. SOS has been playing Ashe support for over 2 seasons now and has taken her to Master Tier or above 2 seasons in a row with some pretty impressive results. SOS started playing Ranked in Season 3 after being an FPS player for the majority of his life. He was always a support player in League and started his career with more typical supports like Thresh, Morgana, and Blitzcrank. He even dabbled in mid for a while, mostly playing mages and ranged characters, as he always felt those were easier than melee. However, even though his multiple seasons of hitting Master Tier or above may suggest that he's very dedicated to the game or is a tryhard, on the contrary, he told me that he simply plays League to have fun and socialize with his friends while challenging himself in rank. He doesn't have any League goals or aspirations. He doesn't stream. He just wants to have fun to see how high he can get playing ranked and really sticking to Ashe support. He's admirable in that way. I'm over here sweating my ass off in Platinum and my guy is just having fun with Ashe support, climbing his way to Master in Season 9, Grandmaster in Season 10, Master again last season, and you already know this season he's Master once again, mainly playing Ashe support. Currently, out of the 350 solo queue games he's played in Season 12, 260 of them have been on Ashe support. And even more impressive than that is the over 54% win rate he's been able to maintain while climbing on her. He's still seeing how far he can go while still having fun and is continuing to climb higher and higher to this day. Even though Ashe is pretty fucking chill, there are some reasons why choosing her as support may land you in hot water. For one, Ashe is squishy. Couple that with her immobility makes it so that if you misposition, you're gonna have a bad time. Early in the game against specific matchups, Ashe has a very difficult laning phase, but if you're able to weather the storm, you'll be rewarded later. She's difficult to play from behind since she really needs at least one item to start taking off, so it's important that you snowball early. And finally, and most importantly, Ashe is very mysterious. We only know as much as the tip of the iceberg about her. But even with all of these potential problems, SOS4U has found a way to make it work. Before level 1, SOS doesn't get too pushy with invades or anything of the sort unless he has someone on his team who is really pushing for one. Again, you're immobile as Ashe, so it's easy for you to get caught if you overextend. However, if someone on his team does go for that invade, Ashe is a perfect support for following up on chasing someone down thanks to the constant slows on her auto attacks from her passive, making it so that if someone tries to get away, they basically have no chance to do so as long as he stays in auto attack range. Once he gets to lane at level 1 and throughout laning phase, well, maybe my notes will do it more justice than me explaining it. Yeah, I mean, that's about it, but seriously, the majority of Ashe's power in laning phase is derived from her W or volley. It's such a wide, near impossible to dodge, annoying skill shot in quotation marks if you're an enemy. But if you're playing Ashe, you get to be the one annoying enemies. Ashe in the very early game has a super small mana pool, so like other supports we've covered like Xerath or Vel'Koz, you want to methodically use your W so that you don't go In these early stages, SOS pretty much only uses W when both Mana Flow Band and his Comet from his runes are off cooldown. Comet is pretty much the only option you should be going as Ashe because as she slows people, it makes it near impossible to dodge the extra damage from Comet. As the game gets longer, you can feel free to spam this ability off cooldown with no problem, but this early, you want to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. You're not a kill lane. You're an annoying poke and kiting lane pre-6, so play to your strengths. Stay out of the range of your enemies and threat in some auto attacks as they allow you to. If an enemy does engage on you or overextend too far in an attempt to get a kill, you will be able to get your most damage off with your ADC as they retreat, constantly slowing them with your passive and then potentially netting a kill. But for the most part, you want to just whittle the enemies down until your ADC decides to go full apeshit or your jungle comes to intervene. Ashe's poke is pretty hard to deal with for a lot of the cast, but she can really struggle against some champions like strong healing supports such as Yuumi or Soraka. Soraka. These characters can completely out-heal all of Ashe's poke, even with healing cut. SOS4U plays Ashe support into any matchup, but he's a true one-trick. That doesn't mean you should be playing it into any matchup. Avoid these enemy supports at all costs, or prepare to struggle pretty hard throughout the early game. Throughout the laning phase, you're also going to have to be wary of ganks, which can be hard because your volley is so large and will automatically push your lane if you're hitting minions too often. Thankfully, Ashe has a way to easily combat this with your E or Hawkshot. Hawkshot is a truly overpowered ability, only hindered by its immensely long cooldown. Correct usage of Hawkshot to prevent ganks and to scout out the enemy jungler can separate the good Ashe supports from the great ones. So while it can seem daunting to try to memorize jungle pathing or internalize jungle timers, I'm going to try to make it a bit easier, at least on the most basic level. As soon as you hit level 2, you want to try to at least find out where the enemy jungler is or has been. At the most simple level, you want to aim your Hawkshot so that it crosses multiple enemy buff camps so you can assess where the enemy jungler is. If it's likely, based on what you find, that the enemy jungler is pathing towards bot side, you know to play a bit more safe. If they're pathing towards top side, you know you have some leeway and can play a bit more aggressive. You can tell that an enemy jungle is pathing bot side if most of their top camps are missing and their bottom are not, and vice versa if they're pathing away. There are some pretty great lineups you can get with Hawkshot to cross multiple camps that I learned from Ashe Challenger player AshBTV, whose video is linked below, such as this one from blue side that shows all 3 enemy top side camps, or this one that spots all 3 bot side camps, or this one that shows blue buff in all 3 top side camps. Alternatively, on the red side, you have this one where you can see Dragon Pit, enemy Wraiths, Blue, and Gromp. This one, where you can literally spot every enemy camp aside from Krugs, and this one, which again shows you every enemy camp aside from Krugs. Being able to keep eyes on what the enemy jungle is doing not only increases the survivability in your lane, but also increases the survivability in your other lanes as well. Keep practicing and using your Hawkshot on cooldown, and your win rate will just organically go up. Other fun facts about Ashe's Hawkshot is that it's one of the few abilities in the game that actually increases vision score. I made a video on how vision score works, so go check that out if you're interested on the ins and outs. Hawkshot can also grant her assists, but only if the enemy was previously unrevealed and dies within 10 seconds of being revealed by Hawkshot. So if you're running Ultimate Hunter, don't just shoot off a Hawkshot in the middle of your teammates who are already in a fight, you won't get an assist. So Hawkshot and Volley are the 2 basic abilities you'll be using most throughout the game. But then there's Ashe's Q, or Ranger's Focus, which is actually a bit controversial in the Ashe support community. Rat IRL doesn't take this ability at all until he absolutely has to, and that's fair. At level 1, which is where this ability will stay for most of the game, it only gives you a bit more attack speed and slightly increases the overall damage your auto attacks do. SOS4U, however, does put 1 point in it, at least at level 4, so that all ins he has a bit more power. It's really up to you. I don't feel any type of way if you believe in it or not. If you choose to be like Rat IRL and not level it up until you're forced to, know that the extra level he gets into E gives Hawkshot a 10-second lower cooldown. The first time you have to level up Q if you choose to go the Rat IRL path is level 13, and by the time you get there on support, which could be somewhere around 25 minutes or more, that could equal a handful of more Hawkshots in that period of time. Once you hit level 6 with Ashe, the game truly begins for you. Your ultimate or Enchanted Crystal Arrow is the ultimate safe engage tool and can net you some easy kills in lane. SOS tries to shoot it further back out of vision or from brush to give enemies less time to react to it, but shooting it straight up in lane can also be just as effective. With your ultimate off cooldown, you go from simply being a poke and peel threat to having some of the most daunting pressure out of any support in the game. At level 1, before cooldown reduction, this has an 80-second cooldown, and at level 16, that goes all the way down to 60 seconds before cooldown reduction. So don't feel bad about throwing this out if there's a chance you can get someone and you can hit one of those sexy cross-map arrows. Shoot it down mid lane after you base to potentially set up an easy 3-second stun for your mid laner. Shoot it from further away when your team is running it down in top jungle and they need some assistance, shoot it into your fucking icy veins. I don't care, man. Just make sure anytime this ability is up, you're looking for a play with it somewhere and have a close eye on your mini map and other lanes in case they do need help. Once a tower falls and you find yourself in the mid game, you want to keep using this arrow to find your team easy picks and accelerate the game by following that up with big objectives. Hopefully in the mid game you already have your mythic item, which is almost always going to be Imperial Mandate. At this point of the game, SOS normally has his W max and can constantly spam it and trigger Imperial Mandate on enemies. This, after leveling up your ultimate at level 6, is Ashe's next strongest power spike and can actually add a surprising amount of damage for your team. It's not rocket science. If you see someone in the mid game, especially if they're not tanky, shoot a W at them and proc Imperial Mandate. If your team is closer to that enemy, shoot an ultimate at them, proc Imperial Mandate, and kill them. Rinse, lather, repeat. SOS also sticks with this playstyle in team fights, playing uber safe and far back in the backline since he's so vulnerable to divers. You're doing well in the team fight as long as you're in volley range. Sometimes it's too risky to even try and get close enough to auto attack an enemy with Ashe, so just stay patient and continue to be a nuisance. If he is in less danger or just outright winning, he may again step up to slow enemies who are trying to run away after a team fight. Or, the more fun thing is to slow immobile bruisers or tanks that are trying to get into his backline and allowing his ADC to pump out more DPS. SOS told me that picking proper fights and having strong positioning is one thing he is really good at, so copy him and play a bit more safe in your own games. For his build, he starts every game with a Spectral Sickle. From there, he'll rush his level 2 boots, pretty much always getting Boots of Lucidity for additional cooldown reduction. Next, he'll go for his mythic item, always getting Imperial Mandate. Other Ashe supports, when they run into a beefier team, will instead build Liandry's, but we don't recommend it here because again, the only thing that scales with AP for Ashe is going to be her ultimate. His fourth item will almost always be a Chemtech Chainsword, since it gives both CDR as well as much needed healing cut, but your fourth and fifth item can be flexible depending on the enemy team. If there are a lot of armor stackers on the enemy team, or you have a lot of AD champions on your team, Black Cleaver is amazing. Axiom Art can work well if you're ahead in the game. Umbral Glaive is a no-brainer because again it gives you cooldown as well as additional lethality and that opportunity to kill wards. And other Ashe supports build Muramana like Rat IRL, but SOS never does because he says Ashe really doesn't have any mana issues later in the game. If the game goes long or he needs some more durability in his build, he'll buy an Elixir of Iron. And throughout the whole game, like a good support does, he's buying control wards and maybe a ward stone if the game goes very late. For his runes, he goes Comet for more poke, Mana Flow Band for better mana regen, Celerity for more movement speed on approach velocity, and Scorch for even more poke damage. For his secondary runes, he goes Biscuit Delivery for even more mana regen, and approach velocity for better kiting and chasing. For his flex runes, he brings one ability haste, one adaptive force, and armor or magic resist depending on his lane opponents. If you want to go the Rat IRL rune page, which looks like this, you'd keep it largely the same, but swap out Celerity for Transcendence. You'd also switch to a Domination secondary page with Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter, and change your flex runes to attack speed, adaptive force, and armor or magic resist depending on your lane opponents. Ashe support works well with ADCs that can easily follow up on her ultimate like Varus or Caitlyn, or poke-focused ADCs like MF or Ezreal. Ashe struggles against strong healing supports like Yuumi or Soraka, or hook supports like Blitzcrank or Pyke. Thanks guys for checking out this video. If you did enjoy this video, you'll like our last analysis video, which was on Syndra support. See you guys next time. Peace.